My name is Patrick Lopez. I am VP of Networks Innovation at Telefonica. Certainly. So those changes are very similar to changes that we have seen in other industries. For instance, in cloud and in web scale environment, a lot of players there have had to basically look at how they have architected their networks in order to be able to serve the massive demand that we've seen on the internet over the last few years. And basically looking at how software-defined networking, network virtualization, and open source has been able to contribute to those environments gave us the idea basically to apply some of the lessons learned from those industries into the telco world. So that's a journey that has started with core networks. A few years ago already, Telefonica has announced Unica, which is basically its virtualization strategy for the core networks. And now we're pushing the boundaries and pushing that virtualization all the way to the access networks. And obviously you're going to say, how do you virtualize a fiber or an antenna? Well, those fibers, those antennas, the mobile world and the fixed world rely on a lot of technology that nowadays still closed technology that is provided by vendors in a very proprietary environment. What open source, what virtualization and what SDN allow is basically to break a little bit the inefficiencies in this model in order to have networks that are software defined, that are virtualized, and that allow for better cost efficiency. Well, the technology itself is just an evolution. There's not going to be revolutionary. I mean, in the fixed access network, we are transitioning from PON to XGS-PON to PON2 technology, which are incremental evolution of that same technology. What is radically different, though, is that when this technology is deployed on a virtualized environment, all of a sudden you have a lot more control in terms of how you deploy it, in terms of how it scales up, and instead of having to buy large increments every time you need to buy some capacity, you can do it a lot more granularly. On the same token, in the mobile world, when we're looking at the base stations and how they evolve over time, there as well, the RRU and the BBU elements of those base stations can be virtualized. And all of a sudden, what that will enable is for the operator to pick and choose the elements in a more modular fashion in order to have either best of breed or to build really and assemble networks that meet specific network expectations. Indeed, the challenge is that networks evolve at a pace that is very slow compared to the software world. So you have new services that are launched every day. We've seen the growth of video, and no doubt that 4K, 8K, augmented and mixed reality is going to have an incredible impact on people's lives every day. But that's going to be only possible if the networks are able to adapt and to evolve in sync with those new services. So the difficulty here is to basically make sure that the telco networks are able to adapt to the customer needs and not the other way around. Virtualization, software-defined networking, open source can help in that manner. I think ideally, if you were to build a network from scratch today, you would not have this separation between enterprise, residential, and mobile networks, at least not from a transport perspective. So in 2028, I would think that all networks will be IPv6, which means that all devices will have a separate IP address, which would mean that ultimately that you will be able to call a device irrespective of its location without having to know, a MAC address or a phone number or an IMSI. You should be able to basically dial Patrick and the network will know where I am. The network will know whether I'm on my mobile phone, on a mobile network, or if I'm on my mobile phone at home, or my fixed network, or whether I'm watching TV, and route the traffic where it's the most convenient for me. So that's one one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is if basically you have a network that is converged, all of a sudden you can make services that are converged as well. What does that look like? There's no reason if you have the same provider that your voicemail on your mobile would be any different from the voicemail at home. It could be the same voicemail. There's no reason that you wouldn't be able, from your mobile phone, to watch a show that you have recorded on your TV, on your DVR. All these experiences today are not possible because they're simply different networks, different experiences. But tomorrow, with a true disaggregated network that is actually able to provide one series of service, irrespective of the technology you use, you could have true digital services, irrespective of the devices. And when you will be watching in your self-driving car, because when the car drives themselves, what's the point really of looking around? You're going to have large screens in those cars, and you're going to be watching what you're watching at home, or you're going to be working. All those services are going to require, on one hand, large bandwidth, and on the other hand, in all likeliness, the capacity to integrate with whatever network is there. And those networks, they might be relying on cellular network, they will be relying on Wi-Fi, they will be relying on fixed, and it will be paramount to offer a single user experience, irrespective of the technology that it's relying upon.